Okay, this is Lord of Flies, Chapter 4, Painted Faces and Long Hair by Matthew Xavier.
Lindsay Park.
Fanny Gallery.
This element that we're going to talk about is allegory, and allegory is basically like an extended metaphor which has like a bigger meaning, like instead of like the literal meaning in the text. So basically the key like storyline for Chapter 4, just in case you forgot, is Jack did not keep the fire lit like when instead he went out hunting, and that prevented them from being rescued because a ship went by and they didn't see the light. And Ralph, the leader, was mad at him because they basically lost a potential opportunity to get escaped, and it was on Jack's shoulders because he was in charge of keeping the fire lit, which he did not do. And basically, a universal application, like big theme, is responsibility and how one's responsibility can affect the outcome of a situation. So basically, these are the pictures. That's the ship which went past the island. That's the fire, which is supposed to represent the bonfire on the beach. And that picture is supposed to symbolize trust, and that's something that Jack doesn't have. Like, he can't be trusted. And this is my quote, which is, "I was a chief and you were going to do what I say. You talk, but you can't even build huts, ... and you let the fire go out." So this basically describes the big picture of the overall book, which is darkness and how people can turn evil or change based on the environment around them. And also it relates to the war that they're in because their plane got shot down, but that's an earlier chapter. So
Okay. The symbolism of this book is objects or things that have deeper meaning, and one of them is the ship. The ship represented hope, because when Ralph and Piggy spotted the ship, they became excited, and they began to think like that they would be rescued, and they thought the signal fire was lit so the people would come save them. But when they realized the ship was turning away and there was no signal fire, Ralph had lost all his high hopes to be rescued. The signal fire represented responsibility and trust, because the failure by the boys to keep the fire lit finally showed Ralph that the boys had no responsibility at all. They couldn't help him build huts, and they didn't even keep the fire lit when that was their job. And so after that, Ralph lost trust in the boys, and that he had on the hunters. And my quote is, "There was a ship out there. You said you keep the fire going and you let it out. They might have seen us. We might have gone home." This shows the loss of trust, the loss of hope, and the like responsibility of the boys was very low.
The part that I did is the conflict, and conflict is basically the fights that they had, that the protagonist and the antagonist had. And in this chapter, the conflicts that are introduced are the conflicts created by the lack of responsibility and the lack of trust. The conflict created by the lack of responsibility was that Jack was so anxious to kill the pig that he forgot to lit the fire, and the ship that came and they could have been rescued left, and they did not see the signal. And the conflict created because of the lack of trust was that Ralph lost his trust on Jack because Jack did not fulfill his responsibility to lit the fire, and they missed a perfect chance to escape the island. My pictures are the fire, which is like a crucial part of conflict, and then the boat, which also represents like the boat coming and then leaving. And my quote was, "You let the fire go out. and then Jack checked, vaguely irritated by his irrelevance. This picture shows that the people fighting. Picture shows that resembles Jack and Ralph. And the discussion question we went over was that if the signal fire was still lit while the ship had been in sight, but the ship failed to spot them, how would you think the outcome would change? Would the boys lose complete hope?
Okay, so the second discussion question is, how do you think Ralph changed inside when he fully realized that the boys he is supposed to be the leader of no longer feeling any need to take responsibilities or seem to respect what he finds important?
The universal question is, how does the responsibility of several individuals affect the trust in the whole group?